WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here, tasting rare and exotic whiskeys, at least often. These are still rare. We'll find out how well the global distribution actually works out. I'm going to today talk about the Glenglassaugh 12-year-old. Ooh. Over here, will be a new video about the Sand End. This is a little bit different here. We have here the peated with port soy. This has even port in it, so good naming there. But today we're going to talk about the Glenglassaugh 12-year-old that is available over here in Germany for about 47 euros. Whiskybase 233639. 45%. Miss Rachel Berry, why 45%? Why not 46%? Why not add then non-chilled filtered? Why not add natural colors someplace in the bottle? That'd be great. No box. Hey, we're now in the year 2023 where environmental concerns, our boxes are not needed anymore apparently. And we have here bourbon casks, sherry casks, and red wine casks. How many bottles? We don't know. We do know that it was bottled on the 9th of May 2023, so it reached Germany at least fairly quickly over here. So in my nice little intelligent book, I'm going to read briefly here about the history of Glenglassaugh, because it has had a very, very inconsistent history. So first of all, it was founded in 1873. Then we have a little bit of a period, and it actually closes in 1908. So about 35 years stopped. So it took another 23 years before the distillery reopens after World War I and before World War II. And guess what? It closes again. So 5 years later in 1936. Reconstruction 1957. And finally in 1960, the distillery reopens to be what? Mothballed 1986. So we had here a long run of 26 years. So that's just like the distillery was closed more than it was open. It sounds like Imperial. All right, good. Now the distillery in 2008, that is, wow, 22 years in between, was bought by a investor group, Russian funded, Scant group, if I pronounce that correctly. And then that was 2008, and 2012 there's a visitor center added, and 2013, so 5 years later, Ben Riach comes with Billy Walker and says, we'll buy it. Now I could not find a price that they bought it for. I do know that the Russian investor group paid £5 million, and they invested, I'm sure, even twice that amount of money is what my gut feeling says, to take this out of mothballing and to do this. So, Ben Riach, Billy Walker said, all right, good. I've worked with my Ben Riach very, very long. Everything's perfect, more or less. I have my Glendronach up and running. Yay, I need a third challenge. Let's go for this. And he had it for an entire 3 years. So there was absolutely no time for Billy Walker in whiskey years to put his fingerprint, to put his mark on that distillery. Because in 2006, Brown-Forman buys then Ben Riach, Glendronach, and here are Glenglassaugh. So we have, basically, at least in Germany, we have something called a Torfa. Torfa is the peated expression. We have the Evolution, which is Jack Daniel's bourbon, and we have the Revolution, which also has some sherry influence. What am I going to compare it to? Just because I can, I'm going to compare it here to a Glendronach 12. This is 43%, but this is an old bottling. It says here non-chilled filtered, non-chilled filtered natural color. So this costs 41 euros. This costs 47 euros over here. So 6 euros less. I remember the day, and it's just a couple, very few years ago, that this used to be 32, 34 euros. Now it's almost 10 euros more, but those are the times. Normal 12-year-old whiskey, single malt from Scotland in Germany costs 40 euros plus minus 5 at the moment. All right, it used to be 30, 35 euros plus minus, and now it's 40 something plus minus. So this is absolutely in the realm of where it could be. It's a little bit on the higher price end of that with the 12 years of age. Now, remember, this was not distilled by Brown-Forman. Remember, this was not even distilled by Billy Walker. So 12 years ago with 2011, that's 2 years before Billy Walker bought this distillery. So it was at the very, very beginnings. And these casks that have been, I'm going to actually say rescued, because they did not use it at the beginning with their revolution. They did not use it with their evolution. They did not use it for other products. They kept these casks maybe hidden away someplace so they could use these now today for us. Brown-Forman, Rachel Berry found them, blended them. What is the proportion of the ratio of the bourbon, the sherry, and the red wine? I'm going to say at least 80% bourbon, 10% sherry, 10% red wine, if at all. The red wine and the sherry does not really power through. It's somewhat on the weaker side for me and my palate here. On the nose, okay, the nose is not bad, but it's not great. I get a little bit of a yeasty moment going on in there. I get a lot of very, very not yet ripe pears. I get a little bit of yellow plums in there that's not yet ripe. I get some vanilla, I get caramel, and I get a tiny little bit here of a red fruit, like a currant, a red currant. Can I see something here? Yes. So it says here, the official tasting note says here, at least online is what I can find, the whiskey combines sweet notes of apricots and figs. Okay. These merge with sweet vanilla accompanied by a pleasant sea breeze. Now, I picked up that thing because I wanted to mention very briefly the coastal malt. Now, a few friends of mine have been at this distillery, and they say if you can ever get up on the roof of the distillery, the warehouse, you can see actually, because it's so close to the coast there, where then the North Sea comes in. One of the most picturesque, one of the most beautiful areas in Scotland. That site, if you can get up there somehow, very, very, very nicely done. It says here, 12-year-old embodies our signature coastal style, matured in bourbon, sherry, and red wine casks for luscious waves of ripe fruit carried on an ocean breeze. So Brown-Forman's really going to push this significance of this distillery being on the coast. The ocean breeze, the coastal influence, the coastal malt, and so on. I'm not sure. This is like a mint color. I don't know if I would have picked mint for my whiskey, but Brown-Forman went for it, and that's fine. All right, let's try this. Oh, by the way, my good old Glendronach 12. Love it. Cheers. It does have a very nice mouthfeel. Creamy, viscous. The flavor profile is not really mine. There are other people are really going to like this because it has old barrels in it. Now with old barrels, there's a little bit like a burnt caramel moment. There's a little bit of a tartness going on in here. It's almost like stale honey. There is a sweetness. And the sherry / red wine influence is minimal. I think I'm getting that red berry that I'm talking about from the red wine. What type of red wine, we don't know. The sherry, what type of cask, we don't know. First fill, second fill, hogsheads, butts, what we're using here, who knows, the percentage. This whiskey is trying to be very delicate. And yet those older barrels do come through. It's like, oh, okay, good, yeah. So it's not my favorite product here. It's a C, maybe a C minus on a bad day. Between the C and C minus for the taste. Just add a little bit of drop of water too. Yeah. That dusty, yeasty moment is going on here. Is it bad? No. Is it good? No. Is it average? More or less. And that's a little bit of there's more caramel than expected, more of that honey than expected. The taste, the Glenglassaugh 12 euros is pleasantly sweet on the palate. Yes. Candied pistachios, don't get that. Sweet figs, don't get that. Create a sweet and salty mouthfeel. Do not get the salt. A hint of sea salt is present. Nope. The whiskey has a long-lasting finish, it says here, and says goodbye with typical maritime Glenglassaugh notes. Now, I don't think many people have tried the Glenglassaugh. We don't know what a typical maritime Glenglassaugh notes are. So after you've been on the market for 5 years, then you can talk about the iconic, the classic, the typical. But this just reached the market, has never been there before. And then to talk about typical Glenglassaugh, we don't know what typical Glenglassaugh is. Not yet. And we'll have to see and wait and look. The bottle design is almost iconic already. That is a nice little, as if you have waves, either sound waves or waves of the ocean here. The GG with the Glenglassaugh Coastal Whiskey. That's their slogan now. This is what the product's going to be. They're going to push and push and push the coastal moment. Why not? Value for money, more of a C minus in my opinion than a C. Taste, C, and a bad day, a C minus. This is not anything to write home about. I'm curious about the other two, how they are doing, how they taste and what's going on in there. All right, just briefly a little bit, I can treat myself to a Glendronach 12 here. Hmm. 43%. It does have more of a mouthfeel of creaminess, but this has the chocolate, this has the plums, this has the sherry, this has the European oak, this has the goodness. Love this. Value for money, still okay. This, not bad, but not great. First question, what is your favorite Glenglassaugh product that you've had? Have you had any of the old Glenglassaughs before the Russians took over back then? I had a 38-year-old once. I had a 30-year-old once. Those were interestingly fantastic whiskeys. Torfa, Revolution, Evolution. Those are the 3 bottles most of us could have had. And now we have 3 new bottles. So let's see what happens and see what we like here. Second question, you have about 50 pounds, euros, or dollars, and you want to buy a 12-year-old single malt scotch. Which one would it be? 1. And third question was, how much money did Billy Walker pay back then for the Glenglassaugh distillery, if possible, with a source. Thank you very much. See you soon. Whiskey Jason here. Bye-bye.